Welcome to Breaking the Silence of Design, a bi-monthly vodcast designed to discuss the issues of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion in the built environment. My name is Karen Compton, and I am your co-host and principal of A3K Consulting.
I'm Gabrielle Bullock, Principal and Director of Global Diversity for Perkins & Will, and your other co-host as we take questions in this conversation. Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready. Yet again, they're not easy. So this is they're all kind of long, but context is everything. We've had a number of well-attended DEI events and good feedback on newsletters, but the virtual environment makes it challenging to have meaningful and vulnerable conversations. There are many people who would like to say more but are uncomfortable in a virtual meeting spotlight, or those who would easily choose to participate do not engage at all. How would you recommend engaging large groups of people virtually on topics of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion?
All right. Well, I will start by saying that you're likely not going to get everybody on the same page at the same time. Mm-hmm. So there's likely going to be some people who are not willing or comfortable to speak in a group, and some that are. I would suggest trying smaller groups.
Like breakout groups?
Or even if it's a big topic. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
At Perkins & Will last year, when we were all faced with racial injustice and the George Floyd murder, we broke up. Each studio tackled it, but even within the studio, there were smaller conversations. Some facilitated, some not, depending on the comfort level of the group. So I think for big, audacious topics, that can be personal and very uncomfortable, that you break it out into smaller groups. I think another opportunity, particularly virtually, if it's a large group virtually, there's plenty of room to turn off your camera and hide.
Yeah.
And not participate. I found that Mentimeter, which is a just-in-time survey tool that everybody has on their phone, you ask the question and you can see all the answers populated. You can put in comments, and so that has been a very good tool as discussion starters.
Oh, okay.
And specific issues within a broader topic.
And is that more anonymous?
It is anonymous.
Oh, okay.
And we would ask, okay, so I see the answer to this question, very interesting comment. Would the person that submitted it like to comment? And either they do or they don't.
Okay.
Most times they don't mind commenting.
But they don't want to be the originator.
Or elaborating. Well, those that don't want to say that's my comment, that's fine. Yeah. But it can still start a conversation amongst everybody, even if the initiator is not the one that's leading the conversation. So that's what I would say. Just try different versions of engagement.
Yeah.
Surveys, Mentimeter, a participatory conversation using Mentimeter helps, and smaller groups.
So the only thing I would add is really more about the mechanics of the conversation. I think from my perspective, in order to engage people virtually or in person, they have to be psychologically safe. They have to know and understand that they're not going to be judged or criticized. And they want, more than anything, to at least know or understand that their perspectives are heard, validated, and acknowledged. So if anything, if you're really looking at or have experienced limited engagement in a virtual platform, I would look at what the dynamic is among the people that are commenting. Because if people are judging or criticizing what you might say, I'm less inclined as an individual to respond.
Right. Well, of course, and we always start with, this is a safe place.
Yeah.
This is going to be a respectful place. And we will respect each other in our commentary, no judging, all of that good stuff. That's 101. You have to do that if you're going to get any kind of participation at all.
So you
set out the rules of engagement beforehand.
Yes.
And I think that's fair.
And
I think that's what people need to.
When you're on the call.
Yeah.
Or when you're in the Zoom room.
Whatever.
But I have found that for a really large group, we've hired a facilitator to manage, because an outside person doesn't have any connection to the individuals and could call on people, if you will, and have it, and it works. They seem to be more responsive to a facilitator.
Because that person isn't
Engage.
judging; they're just
Right.
trying to get them engaged.
Exactly.
That's a really good. That's a really good idea. Okay, so the next one. As a committee of employees that have entirely separate responsibilities from our DEI committee, I want to make sure that we're spending our time in the most meaningful and impactful ways possible. We would like more perspective than just the members of the committee to guide the time we spend and to make change within our company. But we also want to make sure we're collecting inclusive feedback. Have you seen creative or best practice ways to collect feedback on specific topics for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion?
Start with a plan. Start with a broad, the committee should have a broad goal that can be communicated to the entire organization. Here's what we are focusing on within EDI or JEDI, and here's, we're going to tackle this now. And so I would engage or solicit open call for those who want to help roll out or facilitate discussions or tackle an issue on this one thing. I think that it's very difficult for just the committee to do all that needs to be done to engage everybody. And that the more you can solicit and engage others on specific pieces, then they get to own it. You get to be part of, how are we going to tackle gender bias? I mean, that's a big one, but, so just engage other people and don't take it all on yourself. Just because it's a committee doesn't mean you have to do all the work, and it's just going to be a committee if you don't engage more and more people who are vested in the discussion.
Now, I think you had suggested previously the possibility of using something like a Mentimeter
Yeah.
in order to solicit. So that's one tool that could be
That
used.
is one tool.
You also said do an open call. Is that kind of similar to like a calls for proposals that an organization might do?
Yeah,
Just
I
so
mean,
that-
when we wanted to start our LGBTQ affinity group, we did an open call. Perkins and Will is interested in engaging all of our communities and, fostering communities within communities. And so we are interested in starting an LGBTQ affinity group.
Okay.
Will all interested staff members send me an email?
Oh, okay.
So it's not, you're not calling them out.
Right.
It's not on a Zoom call. It's not, you're either interested or you're not.
Right.
And that way, those that have come forward are leading that effort
And are invested in
and
it.
are vested in it.
I really like that as an idea.
Because if you appoint people, assign people, and they're not vested or interested or they are uncomfortable, then it's not going to go very well.
Well, and it goes back to what we've said previously, which is it becomes ticking a box. I checked the box, I did this,
Right.
and it becomes very performative as opposed to truly transformational in terms of organizational culture.
Right. And I would just want to add, it sounds like this person is interested in or concerned about what their committee is doing and perhaps are they doing too much
Yeah.
at once. So maybe bite-sized pieces.
We talked a little bit earlier about this particular question, and the only other thing I would add is, and you made it very clear, have a plan, but it also needs to have a manager,
Yes, a leader.
a leader,
An
run it-
empowered leader.
an empowered leader, and run it like you would run a project. Well, run it like you'd run a successful project.
Yes.
You have somebody who's managing it and leading it, somebody who's managing the schedule and managing the milestones. It's not just gonna kind of sort of happen.
Right.
But it needs to have that same kind of structure to it.
And you have to have, like on any successful project, there was a goal in mind.
Yeah.
Both qualitative, quantitatively.
And a
so
timetable.
What is the goal? And a timetable.
Yeah.
And a sequence, right? What's going to happen first, what's going to happen second, third, and all the way down the line. So yes. I hate to call it a project though, because then it takes the people part out of it.
I know. I just want to make sure it's managed.
Yes.
Like, run it, please. Okay. I'm
Okay,
ready.
My turn.
This one's hard.
How have you seen successful JEDI efforts maintain momentum after the initial startup of a task force or committee.
So,
For those who don't know, JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion.
so the efforts that I have seen that have been successful have really moved outside of the committee or moved outside of the initiative and have really become embedded within the core values and operational structure of the firm. And it's either because of one or more factors, right? The leader or leaders have made sure that the work that the committee has done has now been transformed or moved into the organization so that it is part of performance goals or part of operational culture. And that support is actually there. Those are the cases where I have seen it be incredibly successful. It's not just an initiative.
Right.
It's not just oh, we did this and now you're going to disband us, or it's not that anymore.
Right. And I think all new focus areas, sustainability, back in the day, they were all initiatives.
Yeah.
So if it's new, it's probably going to be called an initiative. But I would think that the intent is not for it to remain an initiative. And so if you think of it that way, then you'll spend more time figuring out how to get it embedded in the core values and the culture and performance, as you say. Another way to help do that is have more voices of JEDI and not just the committee. And that too takes time because not everybody knows how or feels comfortable talking about it. But that should be part of the goal, to have it be, because to embed it in a culture, everybody's got to understand what it is and what it means to them, and how they can speak to it, particularly when it's related to the work that we do.
Yeah. I think what's really hard for people to understand, and I think both you and I want them to understand, this is not a flick the switch kind of thing. Your organization's culture has existed for however long it has existed, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, in some cases 50 or 100 years. We've had a shift to say, you know what, we need to look at our organizational culture. And these things are going to happen. We need them to happen, but it's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to take time to move it forward, but it also takes commitment, persistence, and endurance, you know.
And a clearly established goal and mission.
Yeah.
We just can't say
We want it different.
Yeah, we're going to embrace everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not enough.
Yeah.
If it's going to be actionable and sustainable.
And transformative. Truly transformative. Okay.
Ready for the next one?
I am.
How do we move beyond the narrative that simply increases representation of women, people of color, people with disabilities, and other historically excluded groups of people into management and all levels of the company is enough? Are there ways we can better change the engineering field culture to support a more diverse workforce and more diverse set of leaders so that representation is inclusive and sustainable over a long period of time?
So this is clearly an engineering company.
Yes.
Okay.
Which
So
has its own set of challenges.
that has its own set of challenges, right? So I think I'll try and address it from the engineering perspective, and then we can kind of have a broader discussion. But engineering, unlike architecture, has a broad set of challenges. Students, I think, from the very beginning, let's go all the way back, feel more intimidated by math and science as they consider engineering as an option. So I think the engineering field as a whole needs to really take a hard and focused look at getting engagement with younger students in order to cultivate them into the field of engineering. That's where this really truly begins. And I think that's where NOMA has done such a good job of really trying to develop their camp model and other things early on. But in particular, I think that is where it really truly starts. in order to be able to get to the place of having broader representation of
Or
women.
even having the ability to recruit.
Or even having that ability to recruit. That's my first thought. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think in general, we seek to recruit more diverse talent. And that's, in the scheme of things, the easy part. The hard part, and this is what will make it sustainable and inclusive, is what do you do after you hire these historically underrepresented groups into your organization? Because I think you have to meet them where they're at. You have to go out of your way and make a deliberate attempt at understanding what their lived experiences are, how might the organization support their growth from a cultural perspective. It's about not looking at everybody the same way because everybody did not come from the same starting place. And that's something that I think the AEC industry is not used to doing.
Yeah.
And I find it fun, right? Be curious. If you've never had these groups in your organization, why wouldn't you be curious?
Yeah.
What makes you tick? What can you bring to our organization of value that we don't have? What in your cultural lived experience can you bring? So I think we have to look at every aspect. Once we recruit, how do we retain? How do we grow? And how do we advance folks quicker than we have before? Because, next generations, they're not going to do it.
They're not going to wait 20 years. No.
No.
I think the other thing that's really crucial when you talk about the retain piece, you got to give people good projects to work on. That's part of the inability to retain. Marginalized people feel like they're not getting the same kind of project opportunity. They're kind of sitting on the sidelines watching other people do great work, and they're not engaged. So I think if we're really going to move beyond just statistics, trying to get people in the door, but really truly having meaningful engagement, we also have to look at what are the project assignments? How are we giving people project assignments? How are we mentoring them? How are we investing in them so that they feel like, hey, this is a place I really want to be?
And really go out of your way to be clear and authentic that it is not tokenism, that you did not, you are not recruiting people merely because they are different. You're recruiting them because they are different, and with that difference, they bring something
that's valuable.
And that you will cherish that. Honestly. And I think that you really do have to go above and beyond to establish that if you're not historically a diverse and inclusive organization.
That's it for today.
I think we're done.
I think we did it.
I want to thank our founding partner, IBI Group, our host partner, DLR, and our investing sponsors, Co-Architect, SOM, and Steinberg Hart, for investing in this discussion as we continue in our own uncomfortable conversations.
And today, I want to thank all of our sponsors, as well as our followers and our subscribers. It's not too late to join the conversation. Add your questions. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or all of your social media platforms. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We actually made it.
We did.